Dan Dunleavy calls the games for us, and he's with us now to share in this 3-hour tribute to Rick Jeanneret. Hi, Dan.
Hey, guys. How you doing? First of all.
I'm glad we're together. I can tell you that. And it does feel like we're all together here. And that's...
Yeah. It's
we need to always be mindful of that, right?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. We get caught up in a lot of silly things in life. I'm in that group. And then when you get that notice or that call when something just changes everything forever, and then you're left to kind of pick yourself out of the muck and not feel sorry and find the gladness in knowing somebody like Rick and working with him so closely. And I think all three of us can agree that if you had told the 5-year-old us that at some point in our careers we would work with a personality like Rick Jeanneret so closely for this long that we had, certainly, and Marty as a player and a broadcaster, you never would have imagined it. But it happened, and certainly glad for that. As our boss, Chris Ann, put it last night, we were blessed, and she's not wrong.
Now, we always remember the first time we hear somebody legendary like RJ. And I remember waking up to the highlight shows on RDS, French TV in Quebec, right? And they would always play the great RJ calls, the La Fontaine and the McGillney calls, and, you know, the Hasek saves and all of that. I barely knew any players on Buffalo, but I knew RJ was the broadcaster. When's the first time you heard RJ or even met him for the first time, or you wanted to break into the business? I'm sure you were paying attention to the great ones were all around the National Hockey League.
Yeah, well, growing up in Southern Ontario, as you guys both know, and many of our listeners do, I mean, you were already glued to a broadcast out of Toronto or a broadcast out of Buffalo. They were on regular TV. You didn't have to stream it. You didn't have to find it. You didn't have to buy it. It was right there. So for us growing up watching on television and being able to listen on radio as well in Southern Ontario, you know, you got a dose of both Ted Darling and Rick Jeanneret. So that was magic right there. And you know, what I remember most, and I've told you, both of you, this story, and Brian and I worked together at the Fan when I was just charged with putting a show together, and I'm repeating myself to you two, but for anyone who's listening for the first time, which we like to do as broadcasters here, it was a highlight show, the morning after sports show for half an hour, 5:30 in the morning. You think, who's listening? But it was to launch the morning show. And I remember, and this is so true. I said, every show we have to have a Rick Jeanneret call, because that is what is going to make the show. And we played play-by-play clips, and Brian knows this. I'm sure you hosted the show at some point. It's called The Scoreboard, and we would just play last night's game highlights, baseball, hockey, football, didn't matter. But the edict was to the producers, we need to find an RJ call, because it will just have the show jump out of the radio, just like he did when calling the games. And for many people in Toronto who perhaps didn't get a chance to listen to him on a regular basis for whatever reason, we certainly wanted to give him the chance. So, you know, Marty, I think that would be it for me. I mentioned earlier this morning on GR that, you know, my mom's favorite call was the La Fontaine call, because it was just something that my mom would love to sing, and she would just say it over and over again all the time. And that was the uniqueness of Rick and his greatness, right? I mean, it was something so unique that only he would come up with, and that's the beauty of art and an artist. You know, they come up with their own artistry, and he did. But it was like a hook in a song. It was like Hey Jude, or, you know, whatever song line you want to think of. He came up with it, and you just couldn't let it go. And to this day, you can't let the calls go. And I know I haven't been down to the rink yet, but I've seen and heard that they're playing his calls rolling over out in the plaza. And I think that's just marvelous to do in a tribute to RJ. So, you know, that would, I guess, be my story of first hearing him, for sure, and making sure that other people heard him too, because, you know, we knew as broadcasters how amazing and rare this was, and you needed to get that out.
Did you guys ever call him Rick?
I did all the time, actually.
I never did.
Funny. Yeah.
When I hear people calling him Rick today, I'm like, I don't know if I ever called him that. Every time I saw him, hey RJ, hey RJ, yeah. Hey RJ.
Well,
like,
you know,
it's just so strange, right? Like, after all this time, like it's those little things that are hitting me today. Like, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I don't know why I did call him Rick all the time. I think, Brian, honestly, I mean, my meeting him for the first time goes back to the mid 1980s with his son Chris and going to school with him, and I've shared that story before. So, and I didn't know that Rick was Chris's dad. I had no clue when I walked into a bar to meet RJ for the first time. So he was Mr. Jeanneret to me in that moment, and that's just how I grew up. It's an Elvis Presley thing. It was a yes sir, yes ma'am, Mr. this, Mr. that, that I grew up with my father. So, you know, and ironically, I always felt that Elvis was in the building when Rick was doing his job because he was just so unique. So I think, you know, Marty, for me, that's when he was, first of all, Mr. Jeanneret. And then when I got here, I don't know, it's just you're right, Brian, it's RJ, but I don't know, just out of some kind of respect, I thought I'm going to call you Rick. I don't know if he liked it, but I did.
I don't know what the guy working the elevator in Florida called him, but I know RJ called the guy working the elevator in Florida. Let me tell you.
There's a couple guys who worked elevators that it didn't go over well.
Oh, it didn't go high enough. Oh my gosh. When RJ didn't have his pass that night and he got let out a floor early and he's like, bleep this, I'm not doing this game, blah, blah, blah. It was like, holy cow. I was pretty new to the group. I'm like, is this really going to happen? Is he just going to walk on this? So it was phenomenal. And that to me is like, I think the fun thing with RJ is he loves putting you in your place just a little bit, right? Yeah. But then you're left to wonder, like, geez, how deep did he mean to cut there? Or how much was he just playing? Like 100% playing. And why has he got my head spinning right now? Because now I'm full of self-doubt and I don't know what he meant by all of it. But usually it just circles back to the heart, sharp mind, and just how fortunate we were to be around him.
I'll give you one quick story because I know you've got a great lineup. And I can't wait to hear Rip, actually, that Rip Simonic, for those that don't know. I mean, I can't wait because he would share with me, as he probably has done with you, Brian, many times, more stories about RJ than RJ ever shared about himself. So,
yes.
But one that I have, and I don't have many, but to your point about being put in your place and also not walking on eggshells around him, but realizing the greatness you were around, right? And you wanted to live up to his expectations of keeping things great as a Sabres broadcaster. Generally, it doesn't matter our role. It was, hey, there's a level of greatness here that he's continued on, and he expected the rest of us to do the same. So there are always moments where I felt a little bit nervous around him, no matter how comfortable he tried to make me. And to your point, but one night we were in Philadelphia, and for those that don't know, the meal room for the media in Philly is very narrow between the seats. I mean, you're really squeezing between these long tables to get to a chair just to sit down and have a quick bite before, as you guys know, go to your booth and go to your studio. Well, I had a hot dog with ketchup on it and mustard, and I had to go past RJ. So I had to walk and squeeze behind him. His jacket was on the back of the chair. Oh, no. Well, the ketchup from my hot dog wound up on his jacket, and I knew it in the moment. And I thought, oh my gosh, I may never work here again. Honest to goodness, in that moment, I thought, this is it. That was a short-lived tenure. Ketchup on RJ's jacket is not going to go well. He just looked at me and he gave me the look, and then he smiled, and I cleaned that ketchup up for him. And yeah, but you know, that was just one of those moments, to your point of
course, among all the prima donnas on the broadcast, with the highest distinction pointing directly at me, he would be the last guy to care about his jacket.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I'd be sitting here going, oh my God, can you see it on camera? He'd be like, I don't need the damn thing.
No, he wouldn't. Yeah. And I'm glad to see you guys wearing the gear. I ran to the closet to find mine after I saw you guys were dressed up like that, but the sweaters are put away. For opening night, I was already thinking wearing the gold suspenders. So I can only imagine what we'll all do for opening night this year.
Well, amazing. Just there's been a lot. Lucky. There's been a lot in the last, 51 years, but there's been a lot in the last 2 years, 3 years, that are just, I'm glad they're out there because we can all attach our own words to those moments. But the moments are there, and that's what's most important. So, Dan,
and that the city got to say, Rick, we love you on his retirement ceremony night. That was so well done that you both were a part of and did a great job. Not all of us in life get a chance to take that bow and give the love back, and he did that. And for that, I am forever grateful because I don't think we'll ever let go of that night. So
no, and he wowed us all. Yeah, with the simplicity and precise wording at the end of his speech. I love you. You could have set long odds on whatever you believed he was going to end with. I did not have that on my card. And I was like, of course he just said that. What else? I mean, it was perfect, RJ, right to the last word, right? And
Yeah,
I
sure
love that.
was.
Dan, thank you so
Have
much.
a great show, guys. Thank you.